Mr. Pond Boss, tell me what to do to make all my Lunker Lake dreams come true.
Hello, everybody. Must be Tuesday night. Bob Lusk coming at you live from Lusk Landing right here on the shores of the Brazos River. So let's take a few minutes and start talking about some fish. Been doing some pretty cool stuff lately. Last week I was out in Louisiana actually working on some lakes out there and trying to help those guys figure it out. It was really pretty cool. There was two 20-acre lakes of an old catfish farm. And the man that owned it, he farmed catfish for a long time, 40 years ago. And then he still farms rice and crawfish. He's near Kinder, not too far from Ron Ardouin. We all know Ron, the Boudin man. He's earned that reputation. But anyway, it was pretty interesting. All those lakes are shallow. And the two lakes that he turned into 20 acres weren't that big. They had levees. So he's knocked down levees. So he's got some shallow areas for spawning beds and things. It was pretty interesting to go study those lakes because one of them has got bass and bluegill with a handful of catfish. Hello, Jim Allen. Good to see you, brother. Y'all check in. Let me know who's here. And see, hey, and y'all know the drill. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine in the comment section. Click like. Share this to your timeline, this video, and you're eligible for a drawing for a Pond Boss hat, which we did that the other day. And Leanne's on top of that. Hello, Deborah Corlew. Good to see you guys. Deborah and her hubby got to hang out with Nate Herman. Pretty cool treat to hang out with that guy. He is actually a superstar in the pond and lake management business. So anyway, these lakes over in Louisiana, they're flat country. They're excavated. Levees are built up. Filled them with a well. And there's very little habitat. Bill Shrum's checking in from Oklahoma. Good to see Bill. So it was really an interesting study. So there were two lakes side by side. Hey, Ian, what's the growth rate for a 2 to 3 inch bluegill in 1 year? Well, it depends on if you feed it. If you feed it, that 2 to 3 inch bluegill will be, I'm going to tell you, in 1 year, 5 to 7 inches. Hey, Danny Mac, good to see you. Sorry I stood y'all up last week, but I was driving home from Louisiana and got to go do something fun today. There's Dave Weber checking in from northwestern Missouri. I'll be in your neck of the woods here. Oh, gosh, I got to go to Drexel, Missouri here, I think, next week. Gosh, I don't lose track of time. Yep, Dave knows what to do. Yeah, Ian, and I know you sent me an email. I haven't been able to sit in front of my laptop long enough to read it, much less answer it, but I'll get to it, I promise. So today I got to go do something fun. I spent some time examining a rock quarry lake near Mahia, Texas. Very cool lake. It's about 50 acres. Got water 50 feet deep. Hey, Fred Bingaman. Hey, Samuel Jenkins from East Tennessee. Good to see you. Hey, Fred, I talked to Dave Davidson a while ago. He said to tell you hello. I told him you might check in tonight, and if you did, I'd tell him hello. Tell you hello from Dave Davidson, one of the moderators on the Pond Boss Forum website. So anyway, this 50-acre lake has water up to 50 feet deep, probably averages 20 feet of depth. It's got a fair amount of 6-foot depth, and then it kind of stair steps up, and there's some, look what probably used to be a road to get down into the quarry, and some of that water now is 3 to 4 feet deep, and it's full of curly-leaf pondweed, which I don't see that very often in Texas. I see that in the Midwest and northern tier states, but it was really the only habitat. Now, here's what's really cool. I got home in time to plug the numbers into a spreadsheet. And Jim Allen, it's your spreadsheet, buddy, that you put together. And those fish, so this is really, really interesting. The largemouth bass relative weights ranged from about 90 to 66%. The majority of those fish are under 12 inches long, from like 6 inches to 10.5 inches, a few of them 12. We shocked up in the shocker boat we borrowed 4 bass that were 15 up to 19 inches, and we probably weighed and measured 45 fish. And that is a classic overcrowded lake. So some of you guys may have this, so I'm going to kind of talk you through it just a little bit. The water was crystal clear. I didn't have a long enough cord on the Setchi disc. It would have disappeared. I think I got a 12-foot cord, and you could see the Setchi disc at 12 feet. Hello, Ron Krisman. Good to see you. Mike Cottrell, Palapena County. I drove through Palapena yesterday, or Sunday, I guess it was. We went to a wedding in Breckenridge and headed to Fort Worth or McKinney or somewhere. So anyway, this lake, crystal clear, at least 13 feet. You could probably see 15 feet down in this lake, so it's crystal clear. These tiny bass have got to be at least a year old, maybe more, and they're like 7 to 12 inches long. Relative weights in the upper 60s, lower 70s. Those fish have pretty much zero growth potential. But I'm going to tell you, 8 to 10% of that lake basin, which was all around the perimeter on 3 sides of the lake that weren't sheer drop-offs, had that curly leaf pondweed. And we found, all of us, five different size classes of bluegills. So you might say, how can that be? Well, you guys know the drill. I mean, when I'm preaching, hello, John Dyer from the Carolinas. When I'm talking about preaching this stuff about pond management, everything starts with the water. Well, that water was crystal clear. You could see your feet, and probably you could drown and still see your feet, like way down there, and that water doesn't have any fertility to it at all. It has no nutrient load at all. Any nutrients are tied up in submerged, rooted vegetation, which is great habitat for those little bluegills. So even though the water's healthy, it's not happy because it's got no nutrient load in it. Habitat, great habitat for bluegills and even small bass. It's even better for the bluegills. There's a few cattails, but most of that curly leaf pondweed was being restricted in its ability to grow by bushy pondweed and Cara. So there was a carpet of grass growing around that curly leaf pondweed around the bottom of the shallows. So it made absolutely perfect habitat for bluegills. And the big bass can't navigate, and so here's what we found. Out of the 45 fish we weighed and measured, one was 15 and a half. Let me look here. I'll just tell you the number right now because I just got through looking at it. Stand by. I'm going to tell you these numbers here. This is pretty interesting. So we had an 18-inch bass, 2.86 pounds, underweight. 19 3/4, 3.85, underweight. 16.75 at 1.89, underweight. 15 and a half pound, 0.58, 1.58, underweight. 11 inches, half a pound. 9 and a half, 0.3. 10 and a quarter, 0.37. All those fish are seriously underweight. So where I'm going is this fishery is a direct reflection for the lack of nutrients in the water and the lack of habitat. So where we started to dial in, nothing better than listening to the pond boss while delivering fish. Greg Grimes is out on the fish truck today. Hey, Greg. Hey, Dustin Crawley. Let's see what Deborah says here. Fish have started eating good at the feeder. Frogs awakened. Tadpoles, all is looking good. There you go. That's normal. Oh, hey, Greg, you'll love this. You did not get to meet Buzz Hartley. I got to meet Buzz Hartley. Hartley Fish Farms, Kingman, Kansas. And Buzz, holy cow, I met him like in 1981. I'd been in business for maybe a year. I bought my first bass from him. He taught me more about fish handling than anybody back in that era. Hey, Michael Eric. Do I think, okay, so let's see, Jim Allen, do I think any of those underweight fish are due to spawn? No, I don't. I think they're underweight due to a lack of nutrition. As a matter of fact, anytime, I'll come back to Buzz Hartley in a minute. Anytime I have checked a fishery that is this seriously overcrowded and I've butchered bass, you guys need to know this. Greg's probably seen this. Yeah, I'm getting, distracted here, Ian. I'll be back. I'll get back to you on that. Here, stand by. So anyway, when you fillet those 10-inch bass that are 66%, 71% relative weights, their energy is spent absorbing their flesh, not reproduction. And I have filleted many of those little fish like that, and then checked their gut cavity. Their ovaries are immature, eggs are not ready to go, and we did not see one single batch of spawned fish today. No little bitty bass. All these bass that were 6 to 10 inches long are at least a year old. So their growth potential is shot. Going back to Buzz Hartley, this is what something Deborah said. One of the things Buzz Hartley told me back in 1981, 82, through there somewhere, that just resonated, stuck in my brain. He said, Bob, do you know how to tell when the largemouth bass are spawning? I was trying to think of something scientific. Well, Mr. Hartley, when they're pairing up on this, and he says, there's something even easier than that. And I said, tell me what it is. He says, when the bullfrogs are croaking, bass are spawning. So, what's that relationship? You guys tell me. Somebody type it in. Yeah, Greg, I got a whole lot of stories. And then something else I learned, that when the redbud trees start to bloom, the white bass are running up the river. And you guys tell me, how can that possibly be? I want y'all to answer that question. But Jim, I tell you what, that's a really good question. Do you think any of those underweight fish are due to spawn? No, I do not. I think they're underweight because they don't have enough food in that lake. And the food that is in there, they can't access. Because those little bluegills that we found, we shocked up some 1-inch bluegills. Those things were living in 6 inches of water. And it was hard to navigate for a bass because it had some density of aquatic plants. There was plenty of escape cover for the bluegills. So that lake needs to have some fertility, which I ordered him 30 bags of fertilizer today. And I'm going to have him put 10 bags in, wait 4 or 5 days, probably do 10 more bags, and then see what the bloom does, because he really needs it. I'm going to have him stock some threadfin shad. The shad are running now. I've got him set up 3 feeders, which isn't enough, but it's a good start to be feeding MVP. So the number one job he's got to do now is make the lake more productive in terms of fertility. The second thing is he needs to work on habitat that can congregate his largemouth bass. His largemouth bass are randomly scattered all over the lake because there's very little habitat for bass to congregate to. So most of those bass are long-distance runners. They're running everywhere, and they're long and lean. A 6-inch bass isn't that long, but it's lean. And so that lake is undernourished. The water quality is not like it should be in terms of fertility, and the bass are seriously overcrowded, and the bluegill have plenty of escape cover. That's the problem with that lake. So what's the remedy? The remedy, now it's a rock quarry, a limestone rock quarry. So the alkalinity is pretty high, which means that lake can hold a bloom. And judging by the color of the water, I didn't take a water sample because I didn't need to. The water alkalinity is probably going to be 120 to 140, which is perfect to fertilize. So that's what I'm having. I'm having him fertilize it, bump up his feeding program, call as many bass. Who wants to go catch 8-inch bass? Nobody. But in a 50-acre lake, he's going to need to take out 1,500 to 2,000 bass out of that lake to turn it around. So what I've recommended is he have some events, maybe some wounded warriors, just people coming out there harvesting fish. Hello, Eric Collerman from Beaumont. Drove right through Beaumont last Tuesday. Water temp, white-eye boy Dave Weber, Jim Allen, you got it. You got it. Greg Grimes, dogwoods bloom the cry. That's exactly right. Turkeys it's all about the temperature. That's exactly right. You guys got it. Well done. Good. Danny Mack, in my little pond, as soon as the frogs find their mate and get in the water, we lose a generation of frogs. Buddy Floyd got his leg up today. He had a an 8-inch bass is better than a 7-inch bass. Well, size matters, babe. One of the private ponds that drain into our lake got hit with that 8.5 inches of water. Woo, rain. It appears the spillway pipe has water seeping under it. Oops, I just scrolled past. Let me see here. I advised them to let the acre lake drain until it stopped flowing, especially since they would have to drain it anyway. We dyed some animal burrows. All of them along the dam ended up dumping dye into the outflow. Oh, wow. Does it seem unusual that a large section of the dam all drains to the same outlet place rather than a shortcut across the dam? Let me think about that. Let me make sure I understand what you're asking here. Bay, we're on the same page, buddy. Except my 7-inch bass is a stretch. Okay, let's see. One of the private ponds that drains into our lake got hit with that 8.5 inches of water. It appears the spillway pipe has water seeping under it. I advised them to let the acre lake drain until it stopped. Yep, I would do that, especially since they would have to drain it anyway. We dyed some animal burrows. All of them along the dam ended up dumping dye into the outflow. Does it seem unusual that a large section of the dam all drains to the same outlet place rather than shortcut? No, it doesn't. No, water seeks the path of, I think I understand the question now. Water always seeks the path of least resistance. And so, you know, what I'm hearing that question say is those animal burrows in the dam, if you pour dye in there, you would think that the dye would come out somewhere along the dam. Well, depending on how that outlet pipe was installed, it's probably attracting water to it, even if the water's flowing on the outside. That's the best answer I can give you because I think I understand the question. A good clay wall deep routing the water. Yep. Well, that also tells you very likely that the core trench is working, Jim. That's where Danny Mack's going. A good clay wall deep routing the water. Which when that dye water hits that core trench, it's got to move laterally if it's going to try to get out. There's Ron Ardoin. We're just talking about you, buddy. Yep. All right. What's the application rate of copper sulfate for filamentous algae? Well, I'm going to dance around that a little bit. When you say copper sulfate, good evening, Ron. I'm going to do a little dance on that one, Eric. So when you say copper sulfate, I'm going to presume that you're using granular copper sulfate that you can buy at the feed store, which very few people use that anymore because the chelated coppers work better. Now, I know you're around Beaumont. So the thing about copper sulfate granular, you got to be real careful because if you're in acidic water and you use copper sulfate, you can kill some fish. That's why most of the pond pros now use a chelated form of copper, whether it's Cutrine or KT or one of the others. It's chelated, it's liquid. So the answer about copper sulfate in hard water filamentous algae ponds is 6 pounds per acre foot. And that should be listed on the bag, so follow the label on the bag, what it says. I've been talking to folks in Kingman, Kansas about genetics for my new pond, trying to coordinate a forage-based stocking into my new pond into this spring. Which Purina feed should I stock? Should I feed when I stock bluegill, red? I would start with Aquamax 500. That's smaller pellets. Your bluegill and fathead minnows can eat those pellets, and that would be a really, really good feed to jumpstart the bluegill and jumpstart the fathead minnows. That's what I would use. So, you guys better hit me with some questions because I'm really tired and I'm going to run out of gas if you don't fire me up. Let me see what else I can tell you. Okay, so on this lake we looked at today, well, you know what? Let's go back to the Louisiana lakes while you guys are trying to conjure up a few questions. Play Stump the Boss. Does Eric's question copper sulfate for filamentous algae depend on the depth of the water column? Yeah, that's why I said 6 pounds per acre foot. 6 pounds per acre foot. And back in the day when I used granular copper sulfate, when it was still listed on a bunch of organic lists, by the way, back then, 500 comes in a 50-pound bag. Jim McCrae, man, my longtime friend from over in North Carolina. Good to see you. Yeah, Ian, I'm circling back on the hand throw. So, okay, Eric says, haven't applied it, so I should go with it. You know what? The label is pretty explicit. Spend a little time on Aquaplant. Look at Aquaplant, Texas A&M University's website for aquatic plants. So, okay, so Ian, here's the deal. I have been dogging Purina Mills pretty hard. And so what I've been told is that all they're waiting on is approval from one guy up the food chain, and all he's got to do is sign off on it. And here's the catch. I'm going to have to convince you guys to buy a full run. Well, I know several guys that will buy several pallets, and what I've asked them now is how much is a full run. And a full run is going to be like a tractor trailer load, which I don't know how much that is, but probably 20 tons. So you're going to have to help me sell 20 tons in order to convince them to do it and then do it again. Because if we don't sell what they want to run, then they're probably going to just blow us off, which, you know, and I'll email them again tomorrow. I just hadn't had time to really sit down in front of my laptop till just right this moment. But they're working on it. They're working on it. See, I want to go back here. I want to go back to Dave Weber. I've been talking to the folks in Kingman. Well, I don't know who you're talking to. Billy and his brother. Gosh, and the grandkids are starting to. Back when I was working with and learning from Buzz Hartley, I'll tell you some stories about Buzz Hartley. Buzz Hartley was a champion of a guy. He was the guy that figured out how to get channel catfish to reproduce. And he did that like in the late 50s, early 60s. And he formulated the techniques. He figured out what the little fish would eat. Because the deal breaker, a lot of people could get channel catfish to spawn, but what do you feed the babies? You know, because there was no industry back then. Well, he cracked the nut on that, and he figured out that, you know, what they could eat. And he kind of concocted these different things, everything from boiled eggs to shrimp to all kinds of stuff. And he finally come up with a formulation, worked with a feed company to figure it out, and then he shared that. And he shared that with the big fish farms in Arkansas and Mississippi, and with what he did, forgive the pun, helped spawn the catfish industry. And that was a long time, really a big industry. I mean, if you guys get a chance, go to Google Earth and look at Belzoni, Mississippi. That used to be the catfish capital of North America, the Mississippi Delta. And you can, to this day, you can see all the catfish ponds that are now in CRP, are lying fallow, or growing big deer, you know, because of the way that the economy of the catfish thing started. But Buzz Hartley helped begin that industry by cracking the nut on how to get those fish to reproduce and be successful with it. And Buzz Hartley also taught me volumes about largemouth bass, about how to handle them, how to spawn them, how to try to get uniform sizes in the spawns. And another funny thing about Buzz is when I started questioning him about Florida bass, he said, there's no such thing. It's only largemouth bass. There is no Florida bass. They're just largemouth bass. Well, he was wrong, but, you know, he was as old school as you can get. And something else, his fish were absolutely always amazingly healthy. And I have a huge amount of respect for the Hartley family. Those guys, they've worked hard. Yeah, David Schneiderman, he got that pun up the food chain at Purina, attaboy. Yep, 40,000 pounds. Yeah, that's the number I think they're telling me, Eric, because they want to get that. Yep, 20. Yeah, that's right. Be 20 pallets. That's it. So Danny Mack said he'd get 3 bags for the long haul. All right, Bill Strom, 200 pond, 200 northern largemouth bass stock, 6'3", started fishing for them and tagging in 2024. I fished for them about 8 hours total, and I've tagged 12 different bass, 25 total. I've caught several of those 2 times and 1 3 times. I really see fish with the same bait twice. I really fish with the same bait twice. Seems like I either have very few largemouth bass that survived or a few aggressive ones. What are your thoughts? Here's my thoughts. aggressiveness is an inherited trait. And if you stock 200 northern largemouth bass, those are aggressive by nature. But I'm going to tell you this: there's probably going to be 30 to 50 of those 200, if they all survived, they're going to be repetitively aggressive. So not all fish, it's really interesting, not all fish have the same behavioral traits. You know, they're animals. Some are aggressive, some are passive. Some are shy, some are not. You know, some hide, some are couch potatoes, some are long distance runners. And what happens is the ones that are most well conditioned to your environment are going to be the ones that thrive and be the ones that you catch the most. Those that you're catching most often, don't eat those. Give them the chance to reproduce. Now, here's something else that's real important, Bill. When you stocked them in 2023, they're only 2 years old now. And they're just now getting to the point to where they're ready to reproduce. So whatever you started with, I'm sure you had some attrition, that's normal. But what typically happens is your catch rates are low until those originally stocked fish begin to reproduce. When they start to reproduce, water. Once they begin to reproduce, then you're going to start to see more aggressive behaviors and more competitiveness, and your catch rates will start to go up. So that's not going to happen. Some of those fish might spawn this spring, and if not, they'll start spawning pretty heavily next spring. Aren't there any smaller feed mills that may be a bit more cooperative about doing something outside the standard operating procedure? I partnered with a local feed mill for my fallow deer breeding. They've been really good to work with. Yeah, the only problem with that is they got to have an extruder, and very few smaller feed mills have an extruder. So, I don't know. Okay, so Bill had a spawn last fall. He caught some in a trap in October. Okay, well, those are going to be the fish that are going to motivate the rest of the fish to get more aggressive, and your catch rates begin to go up. So, hey, it's almost 7 o'clock. Pond Boss Magazine, cheaper than a Friday night date. Say it with me now, and it lasts a year. $35 a year. If you guys have not subscribed yet, please do. That's what fuels the economy and helps keep guys like me, or maybe me, motivated to do this kind of stuff. Well, and plus, I like talking to you guys, especially when you can't talk back. He didn't say that. He surely didn't mean it. Or did he? No, he didn't. David Schneiderman, Easy Docks of Texas. Check him out. After the show, go to his website or go to his Facebook page. Find him. Purina Mills, still love them. Sometimes I want to just choke myself. I don't know what to say about them other than I love their products. And I'm an ambassador. So I'm going to keep fighting. Hey, I'm going to keep fighting for you. I sound like a freaking fish food politician. I'm not running for anything, but here we are. John Harson, there you go, buddy. Texas Hunter Products, don't forget about those guys. BirdDogIt.com. Check that out. You guys, I'm serious. Go to BirdDogIt.com. That son of mine is a high-energy go-getter. And if you own much land at all, there's some things they're doing that can probably help you. They're doing some pretty darn cool things with land management, land nutrients, as well as booking hunts and fishing trips and things like that. So just go to BirdDogIt.com. Just go check it out and see, because it's a model that has been a long time coming and long time needed. So I think that'd be a good idea. Go do that. I kind of skipped over Texas Hunter Products. I love those guys. I love their customer service. I love their products. And, gosh, they're receptive. Anytime you call them, they're going to talk to you. They're going to help you with it. Don't forget, subscribe to Pond Boss. Go to pondboss.com, click on subscribe, Or if you get an email from me, there's a little thing underneath it that Leanne fixed where you can subscribe. Let me see if I missed anything. The guy I've been talking to in Kingman sounds like he wears overalls, carries a pocket knife, peeling an apple, has a good amount of gray in his beard. I think I'll listen to him. And that's probably Billy. And when I met Billy, Billy was in high school. And he probably is getting ready to age out because I think he's got kids that are helping around the farm now. Him and his brother. And I'm embarrassed to tell you I can't remember his brother's name. There were 3 brothers and a sister back in the day. Let me see if I got it in here. Y'all bear with me. I got a whole lot of context in my phone. Tell you what. Will, that's it. Will is the grandson. Jay is his son. And Billy is his son. Will is his grandson. One of the things I'm pretty proud of is I have got so many contacts in my phone of people that I've met over the years. Let me just plug in the name Jeff. Jeff, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I have 42 Jeffs in my phone. And I don't know why I just picked that number, but I did. But where I'm going is, if there's anything you need to help you with your ponds, just drop me a note. Just send an email to me. Just info@pondboss.com will get to me, and I'll help you with it. Alan, I'm going to say it, Kepke. That's what I'm going to, maybe I got it right. I don't know. Maybe I didn't. Drew Bachman over in the Carolinas just bought a bag of Aquamax 500. Alex says we have some major ups and downs in Illinois. Bass have been seen on beds only to pull off 2 days later after a cold front. This has happened at least twice. How can this affect the spawn? It just pushes it back. With bass, it just pushes it back. Because when the temperature just begins to get to their temperature, their window, then they'll stage. And then the male will start making a bed. And then but they're waiting on that certain window to open and stay open. So when that cold front blows through and it drops below the window, then they'll go back out in deeper water. But they will come back up and spawn. Now, other fish may not. Crappie, oh my gosh, they're notorious for, if they get blown off of the nest twice, they're not going to come back. They're going to absorb their eggs and blow it off and say, hell with it, we might try it next year. But bass are not that way. Ian, what's your thought on caging bluegill in an area of the pond to keep them more safe? Well, I have mixed thoughts about that. The thing about caging bluegills is if you can keep other predators like birds away from them, it can be a good idea. I remember Eric West managing one of his family ponds years ago. He bought a seine and blocked off a piece of a cove, and he swore that made a huge difference because he was able to set up a feeder and feed those fish. Then when he was ready for them to go be introduced to the rest of the pond and then get eaten, he pulled the seine out, then they could go, and bass couldn't navigate back and forth. Now, depending on the size mesh, that's going to determine how successful you're going to be. But what my biggest thoughts are, like Bruce Candello in Nebraska, he had Herman Brothers build a dock with some holes in it so he could put cages in there and feed bluegill in the cage. And that's when he noticed that the predator fish started coming up around the outside of the cage, and they bumped that cage trying to eat his bluegill, and sometimes they were pretty skittish. But it still worked for him pretty good because he could grow them up big enough that he could get them trained to feed really well, get them up to 5 or 6 inches, and then release them. So that can work. I think what my thoughts are is it's unnatural. I think it's smarter to spend the money on bigger bluegills rather than a cage and having to babysit the cage. Because you get 15 minutes of something wrong and you're going to lose every bluegill. And what I mean by that is that can be an oxygen depletion. That can be a turnover. That can be where the mud gets stirred up and clogs their gills, which that's not likely. But there's a number of things that go wrong when fish are confined beyond their environment. John Harson loves his Texas Hunter feeder. The coons can't get in it. Oh my gosh, that's exactly right. It was, you know what's really interesting, John? Those fish feeders were designed to be that way. And it was really, really interesting because back as Texas Hunter was kind of getting their sea legs under them, their fish feed legs under them, that was part of the issue. Is feeders at that point were not raccoon proof. And so they designed that second motor, the blower motor, to where, when the little door opens, lets the feed down, the blower motor blows it, then the little other motor shuts the feed off, it blows all of it out, and raccoons can't get in it. Hello, Kenny Sanderson up there in western Kansas. Drew Bachman, is there a bear-proof fish feeder? No, there's not. There is not a bear-proof feeder. I don't know. No, I don't know. I have no idea how to bear-proof a feeder. As a matter of fact, I sold one to a guy, and he wanted to feed his trout in Colorado. He's a friend of mine in Dallas with a place in Colorado, and that feeder wasn't up 5 days before a bear tore it to pieces. Bill Schrum, Otto came and surveyed the pond with me last week. While the pond is down almost 3 feet, I'm building spawning beds in areas where it will be 18 inches to 3 feet once it fills. That's a good idea, and now's the time to do it if you're in a drought. I asked last time you were buffering out bad. I put 100 northern largemouth bass in our pond. Do you think I'd get any benefit adding 40 to 100 tiger or Florida Titan bass to cross? Yeah, I do think that would be a good idea. I do. Just make sure they're legal in your state. There's Mark Williams, Dr. Mark Williams, Mountain Home, Arkansas. Otto was asking me questions about the drone in our last outing, so I gave him a private lesson for a discount. He's got his assistant shopping for one. Oh my gosh, that's all Otto needs is a new toy. Hey, look at Greg Grimes coming up with a great idea. A solar charged electric fence. You can electrocute the bears. There you go. Brown bears, black bears. Don't like electricity. I love that idea. Very creative. Okay. Mark. You know what? Mark did want me to ask this. So, okay, guys. So here's the deal. Mark asked me on the phone the other day if it would be better for you guys if we push this show back instead of 6:30 to 7:30 on Tuesday. Do it from 7:30 to 8:30 so you guys can work outside a little bit later. So chime in on that and let me know. If you want me to do it later and it fits in with my lifestyle, I'll do it, which it probably would. I mean, I talk from 7:30 to 8:30 just like I can 6:30 to 7:30. Coons. Okay, let's see what Mark's got. Love my Texas Hunter. Yep, customer service amazing. They sent me some directions on a couple of things to repair and replace. Remember to replace that battery periodically. If you're having any motor problems, if it seems like your timer is set up, the first thing to check, if it seems like the feeder's not working right, the very first thing to check is the battery. And if you need help troubleshooting, call those guys. They have a staff of people that can troubleshoot those things over the phone. The coons were robbing me of $100 of Aquamax in a couple days on my old feeder. Texas Hunters cost that. That's really interesting. Back when I was going to Richmond Mill Lake back in, probably 2006 to 2011, we had 50 feeders on that 125-acre acid water lake. And it was the very first Wi-Fi network run feeding system in the pond management industry. And I don't know if there's any now, but that was the first one. We worked with Zach Sweeney and his engineers to develop a system. We set up Wi-Fi towers around the lake so we could boost the signal and we can be on a laptop and communicate with every feeder in that lake. Well, when you got 50 feeders, you don't want to go out and hand set 50 timers. And plus, we could check the battery capacity. It was a very, very cool program that was designed just for Richmond Mill Lake Kingfisher Society. And then we started noticing that some of the feeders were going empty way too fast. And so we'd go online and check the timers, and they were all checking out right. Well, there were 4 or 5 feeders in particular that looked like they were going off and throwing out way too much feed. So the caretaker set up some game cameras, and all these feeders were sitting on platforms in the water. Some of them were in the water 7 or 8 feet deep on a tall aluminum platform made of corrugated metal. No, not corrugated metal, expanded metal. And he set up like 3 or 4 game cameras, and after 2 or 3 days, he went back and pulled the cards. Raccoons were swimming out in the water, climbing up on those scatter feeder platforms and spinning the little spinner and eating the fish food. So he built some traps. He built some traps out of 1 by 2 inch welded wire, and he put a Conabear 220 in it and baited it with sardines. And in 2 weeks, listen to this, in 2 weeks, now this was after the feeders had been up for about 6 or 7 months. In 2 weeks, he caught 98 raccoons. 98. Wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it. Ron, is it normal for 3 to 4 big fish, females, to be around one? Yes, it is. It is normal. They're not one-man fish. So here's the way that works. So a male builds the nest. And then he's ready to go. I mean, aren't we all? So, all males. I'm not going to go down that rabbit path. I could go south. And I'm not even drinking. Where was I? So, here's what they do. Those males will guard the nest, and then when the females are ripe, when their first round of eggs are ready, they give off a pheromone, and they kind of start making their way closer to a nest. And once the male senses it, he'll go bump and guide that female to the nest, to the bed that he's made, which is about as big around as a hubcap. Are there still hubcaps? And then when he bumps her, she'll start laying her eggs, and he'll just sidle up to her and just rub against her a little bit, and then he'll fertilize those eggs as they come out. And then when she's laid all the eggs she wants to or she can, well, she'll leave, and he'll start shopping for another female while that female goes to another nest. So it is common for 3 or 4 big fish to be around one bed. That's not unusual. All right, would Mike Otto take a random call on dams for me? Sure he would. He would take a random call from Jim Allen. Do you have his number? Eric? Let's see, 7:30 to 8:30. Is that past my bedtime? Yeah, you're talking to me like I'm the last president. Okay, so Michael says no later, please. So no later, please, or no, comma, later, please. I'm not sure what you're asking me. As an LMS. Man, I wish I knew what that stood for. Push it back. Okay, I'm busy. Okay, well, hell, here we go. Yes, on the time change. I watched your video the day after you were live, and it had over 2,000 views. Might give you more live views as well. Regarding a later time, we have a marvelous view, and the setting sun sends a golden glow. I have always loved Danny Mac, but I just love you a little bit more. You guys I'm going to read this here, all right? As a matter of fact, Jim McCrae, hey, the story I was just telling about the raccoons, Jim McCrae is the guy that trapped those 98 raccoons. Hey, cover me up here. Back me up on that, dude. Regarding a later time, we have a marvelous view, and the setting sun sends a golden glow, and the pond reflects straining light deep into the darker forest. Current sundown is about 7:50 Central, with about 2 months to the latest sundown. So I'm going to take that as I don't give a shit what time you broadcast Pond House. Oh, that's funny. Ooh, y'all are making some comments. I need to scroll down here. I'm getting behind. Let's see here. Let me see here. Sardines and marshmallows. I forgot you use marshmallows. Yeah, that's cool. I forgot that. But 98, that's the number I remember. Back me up on that. Kenny Sanderson, I'm on Mountain Time. Oh, I didn't know that. Hello, Steve Thorburn. Eric, yep, that's pretty funny. Lake Management Specialist. I should have known that. All right. So Ian likes the letter time. Michael wants to leave it the same. Jim McCrae's got my back. That's right. 98 raccoons in 2 weeks. So here we are. Okay, guys, looks like we're getting about a 9-1 vote, which I haven't counted them, but that's the way it looks. 9-1 on doing it from 7:30 to 8:30. You guys tell me a little bit more about that. Hey, give me 2 or 3 more questions. I'm going to bail out and go eat supper. And if I do it, hey, if we do it from 7:30 to 8:30, I'll go eat supper and then come do this. Jim, 99. Let's bump it up to 100. I love me some Jim McCray. I miss hanging out with you guys. I don't think I've been to Laurinburg since probably, gosh, it might be 10 years. Wow, that's crazy. All right, Eric's good with either time. Oh, my wife just texted me. She's in the other room and she's texting me. All right, guys. Well, hey, we've been rocking and rolling 45 minutes, and the question's about to wrap up. So I'll have Leanne post something on this Facebook page like she's really good at doing. And it looks like we may shift to 7:30. We got one vote to leave it the same, and the rest were saying we change it, and then several guys are saying good with either time. All right, guys. And Alex, since you're in the lake management business, dude, you ought to pitch a few lake management questions. I'd love to answer some of those. So, guys, you know what? I think I'm going to wrap it up. Go get some supper. 7:15. I always appreciate hanging out with you guys. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with me because you're helping a guy that just turned 70 stay sharp. Of course, 70 is young, right? Help me out. All right, fellas, I'm going to turn you loose, and I don't know where I'll be next Tuesday, but I got a good feeling I'll be with you guys. So until next week, adios for now.